Hi, welcome to A Nightbird. I'm Claire and this is my mum.
Better known as Sonia.
Yes, who's been staying with us for the last 3 weeks. We've had a really nice time. She's actually going home tomorrow, so I really wanted to get this filmed today because Mum has actually started knitting, and I thought it would be nice if she could tell you a little bit about her experience.
When I was younger, I tried sort of obviously knitting things like a scarf to begin with, but then I did a shawl. I think I was about 17 when I did that, and when Claire saw it, and other professional type knitters saw it, that the bit at the bottom, where the point is, was not so good, but everything else is lovely and warm. And anyway,
But what made you actually stop knitting and then take such a big break?
Well, I thought I'd go into knitting a Guernsey for my husband, and I got halfway through it, and this was knitting in the round, and I'd got halfway through it, but it was hard work, and I just thought, I'll put this down, and 20 years later I had not picked it up again.
I mean, I think that can really be a danger, especially if you're not, if you don't have the knitting bug yet, that you come across a project which is kind of frustrating, and then you give up. And then, so Mum recently kind of got re-inspired, I think, because I'm knitting, really. And kind of a similar thing has happened, hasn't it, really? That, the first thing that Mum knit was a tank top for Luca, and you can tell them a little bit about how that went. I mean, you didn't enjoy it, did you?
Well, I thought I've got to get this finished for his birthday, which was in fact yesterday, and
his party was yesterday.
His party was yesterday, yes. And I'd brought it over at the beginning of my stay, and we tried it on Luca, and it was amazingly big and not quite finished, because there was something that was a bit tricky round the neck, so I thought, I'll finish it off with some crochet. Well, it looked sad.
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine that, it was hard for me, because I was in a sort of dilemma as to whether I should say to Mum that I probably won't be putting this on Luca. Because at the same time I wanted to encourage her. I know it's difficult, and especially for, she hasn't knit for quite a few years. It's not going to be, she's not going to produce works of art straight away. So I think it was good she actually saw it herself, that when she put this tank top on Luca, it was very wide.
He drowned in it, basically.
It was the right length, but it was very, very wide, and this neckline kind of fell open. Because I also, I think it was good that you experimented. That so it was a V-neck, and the instructions said to pick up stitches and then do ribbing at the end. And Mum thought, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just going to crochet the edge. But I think you can imagine that a crocheted edge is not really suitable for a V-neck.
Not at all.
Because it just kind of was quite shapeless. And a crochet edge can be very nice, actually, if it's something pretty. Maybe on a sleeve of a cardigan or something like that. So
for girls.
And you've got to find out these things. I think definitely I've done all kinds of experiments where I kind of I learned, and because it's frustrating at the time, but so I had to come up with a plan as to how I could get Mum to, not without discouraging her,
but quietly persuading me, and I thought, we've just got to undo this and start again.
And when she said that, I thought, yay. because it was the only way.
And
I mean, and if I were maybe really very experienced, I might know a way that you can do a rescue on such an item.
I think it's unrescuable.
Well, on the other hand, I think actually somehow it was actually better to then do it again and see how you can construct a sweater in an entirely different way.
Yeah, because the only knitting I've ever done, apart from this Guernsey that I tried to do, has not been in the round. And I was following this pattern, which then needed sewing up. And with my eyesight now, I couldn't visualise me threading the needle with the, the yarn. So Claire said, well, have you tried doing it from the top down rather than from the bottom up, because we can do all in one thing and you don't have any sewing involved. And that seemed like a good idea.
So we didn't follow a pattern in the end. Mum had extra yarn, so she had way more yarn than she needed for a tank top, so I thought we could, because it's so wide as well, we could actually make a full sweater out of this. By doing this and I found that when I first learned to do this top down raglan, I found it much easier to then just to design my own things, because you can follow a pattern, but I think pattern following is also a skill you have to learn, and in the beginning it's nice to know that you can do something without following a pattern. And so we just, because you can see it take shape, you can see how big it is, you can measure it up on him, and then the hard bit is over at first, and then we just did simple increases with knit front and back. No, we didn't do any texture or anything on the jumper. It was a variegated yarn anyway, so which is another reason why it was such a shame that this item was seamed at the side, knit in pieces, because the variegated yarn then didn't flow. It was like a different on the back than it was on the front. And it made me think, about beginner knitters, and how if they go to the wrong place for advice, they can miss out on this whole world that could open up to them of knitting, when all they feel is that it's frustrating and they just hit problems all the time. So Mum actually knit most of that jumper. I mean, I helped her out, which reminded me a lot of when I learned to knit, that my flatmate at the time who taught me, I was constantly passing my knitting to her, saying, oh, I've done something wrong again, can you correct it? And she would always do it with an open heart and without complaining, but it must have been quite frustrating. Things like drop stitches and so on, which is it's something you just stop doing, to be honest. It's not it just as you get used to knitting, it just doesn't happen as much.
No.
Or you notice it straight away.
Exactly. I did notice that.
Yeah. But unfortunately we don't have this jumper to show you today, which is really silly, but I left it at my mother-in-law's again, which is, I often leave knitting there. But actually this time it was because Luca actually wore it on his birthday, and we were over there and he dropped cake down it and so on. And so she said, I'll wash it.
Do.
And but it's a yarn that you can wash, and so I can show it to you next time, or Mum will definitely put it on her project page anyway. Her first item for her project page. Mum has joined Ravelry now, because I've said to her that there's so many free patterns out there. I mean, she paid for this pattern, which was seamed and not really the best for a beginner, and there are a lot of free patterns for beginners, and I would recommend that. I definitely think you should pay for patterns as well later, especially when you particular designs and so on. But when you're beginning, you don't want to invest too much money in things that are kind of experiments. And I have recommended to Mum, I know I always say Tin Can Knits, but they also have their Simple collection, which is an ebook which is free, and it's kind of put into sort of in order of how you can learn a different skill with each item. So it starts with a scarf, and then a blanket, and then a hat. So in each time you're learning something new, and that kind of thing. I think Mum, hopefully when she goes home now, she won't give up, and she'll continue.
Because I have been finding at home now at my age, and with my husband always on the computer, that there are many times when I'm waiting for him to finish, and he thinks, I'll be ready soon, and 4 hours later he's still there and I'm still waiting. So I'm now finding
That's a
myself
great opportunity
something
to
do.
knit. Yes. I think I've said this before about knitting is something which replaces waiting. From now on, if you go to the doctors and you have to wait for ages, it's an opportunity to knit.
Or you're on the train.
Yeah, absolutely. So these situations that you found kind of annoying and frustrating in the past becomes something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But if anyone else has any recommendations on what is a good, inspiring pattern for someone to start with, or any advice, just to help someone to really kind of get hooked and to not be put off by knitting, then I'd like to hear that. I mean, it's only something I'm just thinking about now. I've not really taught anyone to knit before.
But I saw a lovely thing the other day in the knitting group that I have now joined. I was delighted to see there was a man there doing something absolutely beautiful, and more men should do this. I think there are quite a few in Germany, aren't there now?
Well, the local yarn store near me, before I moved, was run by a man, and he was often trying to kind of he had a lot of ideas he had a whiskey and yarn evening, trying to invite men to come and try knitting and so on. Maybe perhaps when Mum was young there wasn't as many men who knit, but there are.
Well, we always heard that sailors would knit because they're away from home and sometimes there's nothing else to do.
Okay.
And so there was some good knitting that came out of the sailors.
I didn't know that. Yes, so Mum has joined this knitting group, which I also think is a great thing to do if you're a beginner. That's much better than going to a shop and asking, I think.
Yeah, because they're very friendly, and if you go along there, they all introduce themselves to you, and then if you've a problem, you just ask one and they'll sort you out.
Yeah, and I think that's much better than, well, the lady that you went to with your knitting project. I don't think she gave you a great project to start with. There's also another thing that you're working on, isn't there? This sweater.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Which is in the old-fashioned style, in pieces. And it's what do you call it? That where there's a button here, but it's A-line at the front and full at the back, and I thought that should be nice and easy. And but of course, because it was from the old school, it's got seams that have got to be. Yeah.
So this is the pattern. Mum actually brought it over in hopes that I might kind of help her with it.
Yeah.
Because she's hit problems. It's quite long, and I just think it's long and complicated. There's all kinds of instructions for it, and I don't think it's necessary because it's a very, very simple thing. I don't understand why something like this is not knit in one piece. It's knit in 1, 2, and the back piece as well. I'm not sure what happens when you get to the top here. So it's knit from the bottom up in 3 pieces. And I just think, and it just isn't, it's not fun. And it's not. And when Mum asked, can you help me? I'm not sure where I am with this pattern. I thought to myself, well, I'm not sure either. I mean, this is not something I would ever knit, and it's it's. But I don't want to get her to rip back everything. I definitely think you can finish this sweater. I mean, you've done quite a lot, haven't you?
Yeah.
So this is the so you've done the back piece.
Yes.
The back piece is finished.
And I'm on...
is that the left side?
It is.
Yeah.
And I turn this around.
But you're getting a bit confused here at the top.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if you take that along to your knitting group, they'll probably know better than I do how to
rescue
continue. Yeah, I mean, I don't, because we've been working so hard on the other thing, we haven't really had time to look at that. And
no.
But you know, I'm sure I definitely don't want you to feel that you have to rip everything back. But I just think the important thing is now, from now on, to like choose patterns that you know are going to be fun. Yeah, because Mum also she for a long time thought that she shouldn't knit as well because of her eyesight. Mum's had cataracts on both of her eyes and is also a bit was quite long-sighted, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am long-sighted, and you need to have close vision when you're knitting. So I suppose I could also invest in a clip-on magnifying glass.
Yes, I'm not sure what would work, but I'm glad that you found that, you know, that it's not that you can't do it altogether. Just perhaps there are certain projects that you maybe should avoid. But I would say try anything, you know, and see how it goes. I find with lace now that my eyesight is a valuable thing, and I used to just follow the pattern and then not really look at what I'd been doing, but now I just feel that that's the only real way to achieve a kind of decent lace pattern is to really read what you've already knit, and so I don't know, but I would say still try it, but do it in stages. Yeah. So we've been kind of busy in the last year. I mean, just having Mum here, we've had a lot to do, you know, looking around. Mum's really, this is the first time she's seen this house. And of course, with Luca's birthday, we've had a lot to organise. We managed to make a novelty cake yesterday for Luca's birthday.
It was Claire's idea, and it was wonderful because he's been very interested in sort of smugglers and pirates.
I've never made a novelty cake before, but I did think to myself, you know, should I attempt it this year or shall I wait until he's a bit older? And the year before, I just made a sort of normal Victoria sponge and then topped it with gummy bears, icing and gummy bears, which he liked. No, but this time I thought, you know, a pirate ship might actually be doable. And I kind of sat down and imagined, you know, how I would construct it, and I mean, it's a basic boat shape, and then you kind of build the decks.
So we had two sandwich tin pieces, which we could have put into a main cake, but we didn't, and she cut it in pieces to make it look like a ship. And there were things in the shop, chocolate things, which looked like.
Yeah, that was fun. We went to the supermarket to find things like accessories for the cakes, and we found that, you know, chocolate fingers worked quite well for the planks. Curly whirlies were the fences around the deck, and also we found some portholes. You know, some little tiny biscuits with jam in the middle.
And then you did
and some Smarties. A
stork. A
flag.
A flag with his name on it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I made that from fabrics, which I glued together because I didn't really have time to sew them. But I just cut out his name and number 3 on a black piece of cotton with 2 skewers, and I was really pleased with it.
And he was delighted.
Yeah, all the children were, although they demolished it.
And of course, the place was covered in chocolate.
And trodden into the floor and everything. And yes, as soon as he blew out the candles, I put 2 sparklers at the back as well that could be like cannons. And yeah, as soon as he blew out the candles and I started cutting it, children came and started ripping biscuits off, and yeah, it was gone in no time. But I did get some pictures, and I will post one in the show notes because I am quite proud of it. And, yeah.
You should be.
I just hope next year he doesn't like something which is way too difficult to make. Like, I mean, a ship is quite easy, but you know, like a dinosaur or something, or a motorbike,
which is his other interest at the moment.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
and I think it was a marvellous pirate ship. But we've also been doing.
We did have a chance to make our project bags though, and I decided that Mum and I would do ours together. So this is for the craft along, but I think Mum will show you hers now.
Well, I imagined it would be nothing like this at all, and I was so delighted. Here it is, and
well, I'll put it
yeah,
right up.
And
so Mum chose the fabrics herself,
and then inside
from my stash, but
it's this sort of citrus yellow, which I thought you can't lose anything in that, because I know sometimes in a project bag you can.
But it's dark inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so delighted with that.
And we weren't sure what size to make it, but we thought, obviously this big sweater doesn't fit in here, but the next project she's planning is probably going to be a hat, isn't it? So we made it hat size. And
yellow ribbon.
Yeah.
Delightful.
It was fun, wasn't it, doing project bags together?
It was.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to show you next what I've been knitting, and Mum is going to go and put her feet up.
Yes. And say bye-bye now, but and thanks for watching.
And Mum is also on Ravelry now, as well as Crafty Seabird.
Well, I should try.
Yes.
You know, I've still got a long way to go.
Yeah, you're not like big into being online, but it's mainly that you know, with these free patterns and or just having a community. I find it so useful having a community of people who can actually recommend things, and you can also see whether people were happy with what they knit and so on. It's so much better than going into a shop and just not knowing what it is that you're going to buy.
But it does seem that in most areas now there are knitting groups, which is terrific.
Yeah, I don't know if there's one around here in my new area.
But you could soon make one.
I could, yeah, if anyone was interested. I mean, in Berlin there are a lot of knitting groups, but then on the other hand, I mean, the reason I didn't join a knitting group in Berlin anyway was because you can't, it's not really something that you bring toddlers along to. But perhaps, you know, when he goes to kindergarten here or something.
Well, you can teach him cat's cradles.
Oh, I don't even know how to do that.
Oh, well, I should have to teach you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll show you what I'm going to knit next, and bye bye from Mum.
Bye.
Alongside helping Mum, so that was a lot of knitting as well that I did on kind of helping Mum to design her projects. I also was knitting a sweater for Luca, but I only had one sleeve left, so it was definitely doable. And here it is. Really lovely pattern, and I love this design. I'm very pleased with the choice of colours. Yeah, it suits him very well, and I would say the only thing that I'm not sure about on this would be the shoulders. I'm not sure if it's because I'm not skilled enough to do this kind of envelope neckline neatly. It's you've got to really line it up and try to do it as carefully as possible, which I did. I tried to be as careful as possible, but perhaps you know, it's just the first time I've done it, and it's sometimes when he's wearing it I kind of think it looks a little bit like shoulder pads, but I'm really pleased with it apart from that, and maybe also with a bit of time it will drop. He's only worn it once, and he liked it. He liked both of the sweaters very much. He was really pleased. And that's nice that he's being able to sort of express whether or not he likes things now. I'm sure that he will probably also say if he doesn't, but he hasn't done that yet about any of my knitting. I couldn't show you this last week because I left it at my mother-in-law's house, but I remembered at least to bring this time. And this is just my Bonnie from Tin Can Knits, using this blend of baby camel and silk, which is really lovely, from Nature's Luxury. But it's a slow project. I'm kind of looking forward to getting to the neckline now, but it's still a lot of knitting to go until I get there. I've started something else. This is because I feel like designing. I've also got a whole lot of things on Ravelry that are queued as well that I'd like to do, but this was more me falling in love with the yarn rather than, and then thinking I really want to knit something with this yarn. But I'd had this idea since last year, really, that I'd like to make some big socks that are too loose, so that they kind of be like slipper socks. And I plan also to, I'm about to turn the heel, they won't be too long, and I'd like to put some suede or some leather at the bottom as a kind of, I don't know if I can buy something like that or whether I'd have to make it myself. And I think that'll be really comfy for wearing around the house. I really love this colour, which is an unusual choice for me. I'm not an orange person, but I'm branching out, and I don't know if it's just because it's pumpkin season or the autumn, but I'm starting to really see the beauty of it. It's a certain type of orange. I mean, I don't like citrusy oranges, but this is really very autumnal. But I'll talk a little bit more about this in the next section, because I also have a giveaway which is kind of related to this. So congratulations to Freeze Frame, her name's Leah, who won this. I haven't sent it off yet. I ended the competition a few days ago. Yeah, as soon as I get to the post office in the week, I'll send that off. But it's so beautiful. It was really hard for me to decide which one of these lovely yarns I wanted to give away, but you know, the other one I think is the right one for me. So congratulations, Leah, and I hope that you enjoy knitting with this. Yes, I also received 2 yarns. I'll show you them together. So one of them is the orange one, and this lovely variegated different shades of blue and turquoisey blue. It's really lovely, and this is the kind of colour that I normally go for, but I always, you know, I just want to branch out a bit, and I thought, you know, this time I'm going to go for the orange, because this is, I've never really bought a yarn this colour before, and I just love it. It's so it's such a burnt orange. So I'm going to be keeping this one. This is from a Californian hand dyer. Her name's Jocelyn, and the company is called Serendipity. And yeah, she also has quite vibrant colours. I was really attracted to when I was looking on Etsy and I saw her shop, and really, wow, like she has a real eye for colours. And yeah, she was kind enough to send me these 2 yarns, and this one is to give away. So I'll be doing another competition to give away this yarn. And I didn't mention this before, but what I'll basically do is it will run through the month, and I will stop it randomly at some point. I stopped it quite late in the month this time, because Mum was here, and I thought, well, I'm not going to get to the post office anyway, so I might as well give more people a chance to win. But it will run for at least a week anyway, and then I'll just stop it randomly, and someone will. I also pick the winner randomly as well, and someone will get to win this lovely Serendipity yarn as well. Right, so the next thing will be the craft along section. I've already shown you Mum's bag, but I'll show you mine now. Now I won't announce the winner again, because the month is actually not over as I'm filming this, but I've seen some really beautiful project bags and with some great fabrics. I love looking at all the different fabrics that everybody has chosen. I also showed you last week the fabric that I wanted to use, which was this main one with the cats. And I teamed it with, I took the blue from here and the black and red for the ribbon. And the reason I chose this design is because, well, actually Mum and I did it together and we chose the same design, but we just did it in different sizes. And I chose to do a longer one, mainly because I already have quite a few project bags. I mean, I think these ones are the most useful for socks or hats or whatever, but I have had in the past, I don't have any on the needles at the moment, but when I have straight needles, I often find that there is, you either have to have a project bag which is very, very long this way, that you lay the needles flat there. I thought I'd try it this way, and that maybe I could have them pointing out at the top. That might work a bit better, and then you can put this in the main bag, and that might, because sometimes I find that the needles start making holes in the bag, and even if I put stoppers on them, because they put, there's a lot of pressure on them. But yeah, I'm really pleased with. I love this fabric with the cats. And I'm really happy that I got this scrap from this local fabric store or my old local fabric store, because actually this is really expensive. It's I think like 21 euros per meter, but I managed to get 2 scraps from the scrap bin, and they're always €1 each, so I might get some more if I have an idea, or ask for it for Christmas or something like that, but yeah. I'm looking forward to casting something on with long needles now so that I can use this. So yes, as soon as the month is over, I will announce the winner. But yeah, I just want to say again that I'm really impressed as to how many people joined in. I was a bit nervous because last time I did a sewing challenge, nobody joined in, and I know that the knitting ones are more popular, so that was really great to see that more people joined in. And I should show you the prizes. That's what I've forgotten. So the first prize is 2 fat quarters, which are of so you've got one mane with owls, which I thought was really cute, and accent fabric here. That will be the first prize. And the second prize is 1 fat quarter, which is also really cute fabric. I thought nice colours, and yeah, you can also use it for another project bag or for some patchwork or anything. And I'll announce the winner yeah, as soon as the month is over. Yeah, the next craft along will be using 1 skein only. I am still undecided as to which skein I'm using. I keep changing my mind. Obviously I've only got a few days to make up my mind, and as soon as I do, I will post a picture in the thread that I create, and with an idea of what I'm going to do. But it's really difficult to decide. And the other thing is, I've been thinking that we run craft alongs every month. Next month will be November, and then after that December, and I've decided that for those 2 months we probably shouldn't do any craft along or anything because of Christmas. I know that last year I felt the same, that I didn't really want to, and a lot of people as well said that they didn't want to join in with a craft along because at that time of year everybody's making presents, or at least planning them. I know that it's crazy to be mentioning Christmas at this time, but because it's a monthly podcast, I have to think about these things. So what I thought is that we can just support each other with, I'd like to share as well pictures and tips and just to show people how we're getting along with our Christmas gifts. So I'll create a thread for that starting in November, just to show off not only Christmas gifts but also perhaps decorations, anything that you're doing for Christmas. But don't worry, it won't be until November, which is when I start getting excited about Christmas anyway. But yeah, and then for that 2 months we can just share that, and we'll then start our first craft along in the new year. Okay, so next I want to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing this month, although it's not a lot because I've had visitors, but there's still been some things. So we're making good progress on the house, and a lot more things have sort of been finished. My crafting corner is pretty much finished now, and now I actually know where everything is. It was a bit chaotic before, just trying to find things like my scissors or my glue and just not knowing where they are. But I discovered something which it's kind of funny. I couldn't find my stitch markers the whole time. They were at the bottom of they were in a little box at the bottom of one of the boxes with fabric in it, and I discovered, well, I kind of thought, what can I use? Because I don't really like to use scrap yarn. I don't know why, it just bothers me. And then I went into the bathroom cupboard and found our toothbrush heads. And you see this little thing here? Right, this is one of the only ones left. We had about like 6 or 7 spare toothbrush heads, and I opened them all and took out this little thing. Which makes a great stitch marker. So if you guys have an electric toothbrush and you ever run out of stitch markers, that's very useful. In fact, I haven't even thrown them away now that I've found my stitch markers. They've actually gone into my stitch marker collection. Yes, so our kitchen is nearly done. We just got to paint a couple more cupboards, and then I want to show you a before and after photo of that. Yeah, and the garden. Thank you to everybody who sent me advice about the garden. It's very useful because I don't know anyone who knows how to garden. And Marika, in particular, thank you for the advice on composting. I looked up how to make leaf mold, and Hendrik and I have actually, I mean, it's amazing how you actually get really into it, and you start watching YouTube videos about composting, and then you also understand the people who are so enthusiastic about composting that they actually want to make videos about it, which is great. So yeah, we've started that, and that's going pretty well. So I think by spring we should have enough compost to really do something with this garden. Hendrik was actually out last weekend in the garden the entire day, and he cleared up all because a lot of needles fall from the pines and cones and so on, and it didn't occur to me how much of a difference it would make if these were all cleared up, and it just looks so nice now. And he cut back a lot of the bushes, and because everything was kind of looking overgrown, which it does if you don't keep it up. And I have much more of a vision now in the garden. Unfortunately, we actually also cut back the blackberry bushes, which was, well, it was a topic for negotiation, definitely, because I like the idea of having fruit in the garden. But it was such a bramble, and it's also, it's not something good when you've got such a toddler who kind of wants to run around in the garden. It's the kind of thing you can trip up on. It's prickly, and there are so many blackberries growing wild around here. We also found that the blackberries weren't really, I'm sure maybe they come a little bit later, but they were getting eaten by, as soon as they turned black, they were getting eaten by the birds anyway. So we got rid of those, and it's actually in a good sunny place, so that perhaps we can plan our vegetable garden there as well. and yeah, so we'll definitely want some fruit in the garden, but perhaps blackberries isn't the best for a home garden. Also, thanks for the advice on books and so on that I can get about gardening. There's one that I'm not going to mention the title because I'm thinking about getting it for Christmas for Hendrik. I want this book, so we can share it, because he's just as keen on gardening now as I am, and especially after being out in the garden this weekend, he really enjoyed it. He really enjoyed it and felt good at the end of the day. And so we'll keep you updated on that. And another thing which I haven't done for a long time is to go flea marketing, because when you're moving, it's not a good idea to collect more things. But there is actually a local flea market here, which Mum and I went to. But it was nothing compared to the ones that you get in Berlin. It was kind of a few. There were children there actually who'd put their old teddy bears and stuff like that, which is really sweet. And I went with Mum. Luca stayed at home with his dad, and they were saying, "Oh, do you have children? Do you think he would like this teddy bear, or do you think that he would?" And I didn't. I mean, I didn't want to buy anything. It was really the kind of stuff that I would throw out. But it was interesting to go along there. But it made me miss the Berlin ones, and to think that I was living there for such a long time. And in the last couple of months, because of the move, I didn't even go to any of these flea markets. But I can still visit Berlin, and I found on a Berlin flea market, I found this set. Really cute set of tea. They're teacups. There are saucers, plates, and tea plates, and a sugar bowl and a jug. All in that pattern, which I think is really nice. I mean, I don't really have anything that matches, and very reasonable price as well. And the other thing that I found is I'm always looking for these type of champagne glasses in that shape. It's really hard to find them here. I don't know if in other parts of the world they're more common, but the champagne flute here is almost, it's the only thing that people actually drink their sparkling wine and champagne from. So it's kind of become a thing that I'm on the hunt for these glasses. And I was glad to find a few of these. There was only 4, because that's another thing that I find that if I do find them, there are only a few of them. But but I should settle in here first and actually unpack all my boxes before I really buy any more things from the flea market. I'll also put a picture up of all this crockery once I put it together. Maybe I'll put it on Instagram or something. As far as reading and watching have been going, with Mum here, we really haven't. I haven't read anything, and we barely sat down to watch television. We've just basically been playing with Luca and exploring the area. We've also found as well that there's so many places to go walking around here, and the forests are so beautiful, and I'm really starting to feel very glad, very glad that we moved here, despite the flea markets. It's probably good for me anyway that I can't just go and buy stuff from flea markets whenever. So I'll close for now, and I look forward to this last knit along of the year with the one skein, and we'll keep each other updated as to how things go along with that. And as soon as the month is over, we'll announce the winner for the project bag craft along. And until next month, enjoy your knitting and sewing, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.